All right, we're introducing you to topsoil. You can acquire it in bulk by the bag, or you can form it on site. What we're going to focus on mainly in this session is how you're able to form it on site. Topsoil is very expensive to acquire in bulk, even more expensive to buy by the bag. Each of those are options. And actually, when you buy these substances, these materials I should say, that's not really topsoil. It's organic matter and composted material with clay and other minerals mixed together. It doesn't become topsoil until it becomes involved with the living organisms in your designed ecosystem. The trees, the bushes, and the turf. The three major components that you as a tree man or a landscaper are charged to take care of. And what we've got now is a situation where we started with a job to aerate and decompact a critical root zone around 3 or 4 major white oak trees. And what we found when we started is that we were able to switch and change from aeration and decompaction to one of incorporation. Now, incorporation, or stirring, or air tillage as you might hear it referred to, is the process of taking organic materials that were acquired and placed here by the owner 2 years ago, and we are going to incorporate those into the top layers. Now, what we determined that guided our decision was we did some compaction testing with my penetrometer here. I pushed this into the ground, and as you can see, I was able to pull that down there pretty far, and so real tight conditions are not a factor in this decision. So we said, okay, that's one. Now I'm going to take my core sampler and I'm going to draw a core sample here, and we were able to see a very well-defined border between the organic matter that was placed here a couple of years ago that's begun to break down, and a very distinct layer of wet, compacted clay that is below it. And what we are going to do is to stimulate, animate, and accelerate the formation of this layering into topsoil by incorporating this using air tillage. Our latest research and development reveals that air tillage works best when you incorporate organic matter and apply surface mulch at the same time. And that's exactly what we're going to do to change these 3 layers, black, brown, red, into a combined mixture that will make topsoil. Many of you that acquire organic material, or what they'll sell to you as soil, will get substances that come from land that looks like that. They'll take it and pile it up in piles of stumps and dirt that look like that. They'll put it in a grinding machine that grinds it and turns it into a substance that looks like this. And this is not topsoil. It has dirt, it has organic matter, and it has a lot of other things in it as well. And our tree preservation action of establishing topsoil skirts is all about incorporating this type of material into the top layers of your existing soil on your property, so that we can involve all of the microorganisms to decompose it and turn it into life-giving topsoil. This area that we're going to use for topsoiling is an ideal spot for us to take our granular food. This is the form that I'd like to introduce into the process at this time, because this is lignite, an organic substance that is somewhere between peat and coal, and I'm going to inoculate and biostimulate this area by applying several 50-pound bags of this product here It's coated with a yeast that's freeze-dried onto the surface of this lignite that helps to break down the chemical bonds. It is not a fertilizer. It is a biofood that nourishes the ground. If you want to feed the elements of your landscape, you don't necessarily feed the trees and the bushes. You feed the soil, and use every opportunity to incorporate this biostimulation in with topsoiling, in with decompaction, all at the same time, so that we are satisfying that new normal of increased customer expectations and less money to pay for those increased expectations. And this is a perfect example of how we do it, by feeding, air tillage and topsoiling, and incorporation of organic matter, and aeration and decompaction, all in one movement. Very efficient. It's what you need to do. This white oak tree has been under management from '02, when we started, where there was no mulch and nothing but grass and turf growing all the way up to the trunk. We could get less than 1.5 inches or 2 inches of our penetrometer into the ground at that time. And so from '02 to '08, we managed it in successive stages according to the budget established by the owner. Now, the owner passed away in '08, and so from '08 to the present, which we are in 2012 now, had we not made this tree cheap to keep, it would suffer, and as a result, the property value would suffer. It's in an estate situation now. There seems to be some disagreements as to who's going to do what for how much, and so on and so forth. You know how that goes with estate properties. But I'm going to pull a plug underneath this tree and show you the benefits, the cumulative benefits of bringing the internal symplast of the tree together and the external fungal and bacterial systems in the soil together, forming nutrients without any help from us except water. We're going to use this area here where we're topsoiling, and we're going to contrast it with another area that will take you to another tree that has no organic matter in the critical root zone at all. And the roots, as a result, have been lured up very, very closely, within 1/2 inch or 1 inch of the surface. And unless you apply either a bulk purchased or a bag purchased, or either local native materials that your customer might have accumulated on site, unless you apply those to the surface before you do this air tillage and incorporation of organic matter, you would expose roots unnecessarily to the air. We're having a drought in this part of the country, and we must be especially careful that when we put air spaces in these critical root zones, that those air spaces, both large air spaces for biostimulants and smaller air spaces for water, get filled with moisture and are held there so that the plant can survive during these very hot times. And we'll show you the two different styles that you have to be aware of when we finish this one, and we'll go to another site. What you see here is an air-tilled or incorporated surface of organic matter with mulch applied on top. And what we have here is a nice layer of organic matter that is being claimed by these clumps and aggregates of roots like this throughout this critical root zone. And we have applied the stimulate, animate, and accelerate steps of the Cheap to Keep Trees and Landscapes protocol to this site, and by this time next year, this will all be perfectly formed topsoil with no further remediation or adjustments or amendments or services needed to keep these trees healthy according to the design intent of the fifth element of this property, the ownership of this property. And it at that point has the status that we very much appreciate and want, and that is cheap to keep, it for the least amount of cost, the least amount of risk, no breakdown, and for the best, most beautiful setting that they could possibly have on the property, and we've done it.